Today, we bring you an inspiring story from Cebu in the Philippines, where a young girl named Maria proved that big dreams can grow even in the smallest places. Maria grew up in a tiny wooden house beside a noisy street. While other students studied in air-conditioned classrooms, she had only open windows, the heat, and the sound of tricycles passing by. Even with these challenges, Maria held on to one dream that seemed impossible. She wanted to study at the University of Oxford, one of the most famous schools in the world. Many people around her didn't believe this could ever happen. They said a girl from a poor family in Cebu could never reach a school that accepts only the smartest students. But Maria refused to believe that intelligence belonged only to the rich. She told herself that if she worked hard enough, she could stand beside anyone. Life was not easy for Maria. Every morning, she woke up at 4 o'clock to help her mother sell pandesal before going to school. She didn't have fancy notebooks or fast internet. Instead, she studied with borrowed materials and went to her neighbor's house just to download lessons. At night, she worked under the light of a candle until the wax melted onto the floor. But her teachers saw something special in her. They said she wasn't just smart. She had a fire inside her, a strong determination that made her stand out. When she joined competitions, she won again and again, not because she had the best resources, but because she refused to lose. This same determination pushed her to continue dreaming of Oxford, even when other people laughed. When Maria finished high school, she started applying for scholarships. Many people told her she was wasting her time, but she tried anyway. She learned how to apply by watching free tutorials online and study materials she found on the internet. The first time she took the test, she failed. But instead of giving up, she took it again, and this time she passed. This small victory gave her the courage to start her Oxford application. She wrote her essay from the heart, explaining how her parents always told her to dream beyond their neighborhood. At the end of her essay, she wrote a strong line that made the Oxford panel stop and think. The world often forgets that intelligence can come from small islands, too. The day the results arrived, Maria was so nervous that her hands were shaking as she opened the email. For a moment, she couldn't believe what she was seeing. The message said, "Congratulations. You have been accepted to the University of Oxford." Maria screamed in excitement. Her mother cried, and her father didn't believe it until he saw the email himself. Their tiny home filled with joy, and people from their neighborhood came to celebrate because no one from their area had ever made it to Oxford before. Soon, she packed her bags and traveled to England. Everything there felt different. The weather, the food, the people, and even the accents. Her classmates came from powerful families, while she was the daughter of a bread seller. She hardly had money for books, but she worked part-time jobs and reminded herself why she had come so far. At Oxford, Maria quickly realized that life there would not be easy. Many of her classmates wore expensive clothes and talked about traveling to different countries every year. Some were the children of CEOs, ambassadors, and powerful leaders. Meanwhile, Maria worked part-time cleaning dorm rooms and washing dishes just to afford basic school materials. Even with all these differences, she pushed herself to stay focused. Whenever she felt unsure or small, she remembered her mother's words. You don't have to be rich to be smart. You just have to want it more than they do. She held on to those words like armor. She asked questions in class even when her voice shook. Her professors began to notice her curiosity and her strong desire to learn. One professor even asked her how she stayed so motivated. Maria answered that in her country, many children do not get the chance to study, so she studies for them too. Her answer touched the professor's heart and made people see her in a new way. Soon, Maria heard about something called the Oxford Global Innovation Challenge. It was a big contest where students had to create an original idea that could help change the world. Many students were excited because they had huge budgets and high-tech tools to prepare their projects. Maria did not have any of these things, but she did have an idea inspired by her home in the Philippines. She created a project called Coco Clean, which used coconut husks to make eco-friendly materials that could replace plastic. She believed this idea could help small farmers in the Philippines, while also reducing pollution. When the day of the presentation arrived, other students showed up with fancy slides, expensive prototypes, and bright displays. Maria only had a handmade board and simple samples she made by herself. But when she spoke, the whole room grew quiet. She explained her project with honesty and passion, saying, "Intelligence is not measured by how big your budget is, but by how big your purpose is." The judges were amazed. One of them said her idea had the power to change the world. When it was finally time to announce the winner, many people expected the prize to go to a student from America or Europe. But to everyone's surprise, the host announced, the winner of the Oxford Global Innovation Challenge is Maria from the Philippines. The whole audience gasped, then stood up and applauded. Some people were even in tears. Maria stood frozen, crying as she realized she had beaten some of the brightest students in the world. News spread quickly across campus and soon beyond. Headlines began to appear saying that a Filipina Oxford student had won a global competition. Students in the Philippines celebrated her victory, and schools shared her speech online. Reporters called her mother, and their small neighborhood became known everywhere. Maria was later invited to speak at Oxford about her journey. Standing before professors and students from many countries, she said she once was told she wasn't smart enough because she was poor, yet there she was, proving that giving up was never an option. After Maria's win, people from different countries wanted to hear her story. News reporters visited her small town in Cebu, and students wrote to her saying she inspired them to believe in themselves. Even large companies began sending her messages, offering her jobs in places far from home. But Maria had other plans. She remembered the kids back in the Philippines who studied with broken chairs, slow computers, or no internet at all. So when she finished her degree, she traveled back to Cebu with her diploma in her hands and a mission in her heart. She started an organization that helped poor students get access to online learning by giving them free lessons and tutoring. She even used part of her scholarship money to buy laptops for schools that couldn't afford them. Then she began traveling to towns and villages, teaching children how to dream bigger and not be afraid to aim high. Everywhere she went, students listened to her like she was living proof that anything could happen if you worked for it. As more people learned about her work, the government took notice. They invited her to events, handed her awards, and thanked her for helping young people across the country. But Maria stayed humble. She still rode jeepneys like everyone else, still stopped by the same street vendors she knew growing up, and still talked to neighbors with the same warm smile. She often said, "Success means nothing if you forget where you came from." Even with all the attention she received, she focused on the students who needed help the most. Years later, Oxford reached out to her again, but this time not as a student. They invited her to come back as a guest lecturer. Standing in the same hall where she once felt so small, she was now introduced as Dr. Maria Santos, the Filipino education innovator who changed countless lives. She began her lecture with the story of a girl who once studied under a streetlight, and the audience listened closely, knowing they were witnessing something special. Maria's influence kept growing, not only in the Philippines but all around the world. Parents named their daughters after her, and schools hung her picture on their walls as a reminder that greatness can come from anywhere. Journalists asked her what kept her going through years of hardship, and she said it was never about proving people wrong. It was about proving that Filipino students are unstoppable when given a chance. She said people once believed they weren't smart enough, but the real problem was they were never given enough opportunities to shine. Her story continued to spread, inspiring millions. And just when it seemed like Maria had achieved everything she once dreamed of, she received a message that would change the course of her journey once again. Like, share and subscribe for more.